Hello everyone! This is the first part of my FE6 unit swap LTC, and we will go right ahead starting with chapter 1. Since there isn't much to talk about the chapter, I will instead analyze a few units, the most important one being Isadora, who replaces Marcus. Well, Isadora is one hell of a unit. She starts with 13 base strength and 16 base speed, which means compared to Marcus, she already beats him by 4 strength and 5 speed. Adding to that, instead of having D swords, A lances, and E axes like Marcus does, her weapon ranks are A swords, B lances, and a D axes. While this seems very busted for a Jagan, there is one thing that nerfs Isadora quite a bit: her 6 constitution. She loses speed from almost every weapon she can carry. That's not a sword. But, hand axes and javelins cause her to lose 5 to 6 speed, which basically puts her on par with Marcus's speed again. However, these things do not change that she is extremely good, and she will most likely be a carry for this entire run. So the next 2 units are Will and Gilliam, who are replacing Wold and Boris. Anyways, the last unit in our group that I have wanted to talk about in this chapter is FE7 Roy. Just like FE6 Roy, he has exactly the same stats. Well, not for Con and 8. He has one more in both of them. But, unlike Smash Bros. Roy, FE7 Roy is pretty bad. Well, though he can carry the rapier, which might be handy in some scenarios, so maybe he will get useful for some things. Well, okay, that's about it for characters on this chapter. Now moving on about the chapter itself. There's nothing much to say about here. I rescue Roy with one of the Christmas calves and move Isadora full move, since she is the only unit that can cross the forest at the top within 3 turns without being rescue dropped herself. I will then give Roy to her so she can drop him within seizing range on turn 3. All that is left is killing the boss and seize, resulting in a 4-turn clear chapter 1. On to chapter 2. So, in the very first turn, I rescue drop Roy onto the fort in order to get him some easy XP. Oh yeah, also Sarah has joined our party. Much like Gilliam and Will, she probably won't be doing much, but hey, compared to Ellen, she is at least a bit better, coming with 1 more magic base, 2 more defense, and 1 more HP. Everything else is pretty much identical. I would really like to use her, but her starting staff rank and low base magic would not be worth my time. Okay, then starting from turn 2, the Deep Mercenaries will join our group. However, leading the group is none other than Raven, and as far as I remember, we are on our way to Hector 2. Is it really a good idea to take him along? Anyways, alongside Raven, we've got our trusty fighter Boris, being Garcia, who replaces Lot, and Batra, who replaces Wade. Garcia is the first unit that is actually leveled down. Even though it is only 1 level, he still loses 1 point of strength from his original Sacred Stone spaces. Funnily enough, this basically makes him into the same unit as Lot. Well, bases wise. The only edge Garcia has would be 1 point of skill. As for Batre, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Wade is actually better. Batre has only 3 base beats, and I thought Wade with his 5 at base was already slow. Anyways, moving on. Raven replacing Deke. There is really not much to say here. They have quite the stat difference, with Raven having 3 more speed, but 1 less HP, strength, and depth than Deke. Also, Deke has 13 con, which goes up to 14 when promoted to a hero, meaning that he will not get slowed down by hand axes and other heavy weapons. Raven, on the other hand, only has 8 con, which of course goes up to 9 upon promotion. All things considered, he is a solid unit in the early game, but he loses his steam pretty quickly if you want him to wield axes as a hero. So then on to one of the best units in this patch, Vanessa. Seriously, she is gonna take the title of being one of the best units in FE6 now too. She's not very different from Shanna, all of their stats are pretty much identical. Yes, Shanna has 1 more base speed, but Vanessa has 1 more base con, which makes them have the exact same attack speed in most cases. The one edge Vanessa has though is that she has 1 point of strength base extra, and also her being an early flyer is OP enough. I don't think I need to explain that. So also 2 units I wasn't able to talk about in first chapter would be the 2 calves, being Sane, who replaces Lance, and Kent, who replaces Alan. Well, there is not very much to say about them. All 4 of the calves are very similar. Alan has the same speed base as Sane. Sane has the highest strength base out of all of them, being 8, which is only 1 more than Alan's base. Lance has the highest speed base at 8, while Kent only has 7. And all of their growth rates are very similar, except the 60% strength growth on Sane, I guess. For this run, I decided to stick to training Sane, because I thought that having 2 more strength for potential one-shots will be more useful than 1 point of speed. Also, Kent is the only cav that has a D rank in swords, and E in lances. Who the hell thought this was a good idea? Okay, back to the chapter. There won't be any more notable characters in a while. Sadly, the early game will still be a bit luck reliant, which means I have to RN burn quite a bit, just like you saw that what I did with Vanessa. I need to do that to get a few kills, crits, and to dodge an enemy phase so my units won't die. I have tried to finish this chapter within 4 turns before, however I think it is not possible on hard mode due to Roy being unable to kill Root with even 2 rapier crits. This is due to Roy's insanely low attack, but also Root's already high defense and 3 extra defense thrones give as a bonus. Because of this, I decided to just go with the 5-turn clear of this chapter, which is actually pretty easy, if you can kill the enemies that are blocking you, but again, I'll just rig for a crit. Since there wasn't much to do, this chapter turned out to be really uneventful. I used the time to feed XP to both Sane and Vanessa, while preparing a rescue chain to get Roy into seizing range. The last thing I had to do is make sure Roy survives an enemy phase, snipe Root with Isadora, and seize, ending chapter 2 in 5 turns. Okay, our squad has now arrived at chapter 3. As for Raven, he will be sitting this one out. I don't want him getting too close to Hector after all. Okay, so I got told by Gina that a 5-turn clear of this chapter is possible, if Shauna or Vanessa ended up with 2 more defense. That way I could have gone through the corridor faster. However, that would require me to go back and level Vanessa even more than I already did. And I have already seen how Irissa pulled off 5-turn because Gina shot me. At this point, I decided that it would be basically copying a strat, so I went for a 6-turn clear instead. So what I basically did for the first turn was rescue drop Vanessa with both of my Cavaliers, just to get her in a range where she can easily join the fight. In the beginning of chapter 3, there are a lot of units that are coming at you, and you need to get rid of them, at least I had to, otherwise Isadora wouldn't have been able to just run through the corridor. Which means I had to rig another few crits just to get kills on Vanessa, Sane, and Roy as well, not Elliewood, who's Elliewood. Which basically makes way for Isadora to just go through the corridor and do her thing with Roy in her hands. The Cavaliers will then continue to support Isadora, following her into the corridor while picking off at the rest soldiers that are stationed in the corridor. But that's basically about it for this chapter. All that is left is a little bit of XP for Vanessa and Sane, and running around with Roy being rescued. Okay, well, there is still one thing that is pretty important. That is taking off Roy of Isadora. Because the reinforcement Cavaliers that are coming are almost unkillable for most of my units at this point. The only 2 units that are able to kill them would be Sane with a crit, and he does not have crit rate against most of them. But Isadora can easily one-round them as well, if she's not carrying Roy, that is, which is why I had Kent take off Roy of Isadora, just so she can deal with the reinforcements. This is the reason why I wanted to use Saiyan over Kent. So, the throne room is basically cleared out now, which means I can give back Roy to Isadora and drop him in a way where the reinforcements will not block him from seizing. Looking back at the footage though, you will see a problem that I could have actually done better. Okay, yeah, this is the problem I was talking about. There is nothing wrong with how I drop Roy, but it's more about the position of Isadora. I could have put her in front of the boss, which means she would have countered, and I'm pretty sure that in the next player phase I'm trying to rig a crit because Isadora is unable to one-round the guy. If I had put her one space to the right, she would have chipped him this turn and could have easily picked him up at the start of next turn. Well, all that is left to do though is to kill the boss, seize the throne, and that would be a smooth 6-turn clear of Chapter 3, I guess. Oh yeah, and rank joins too. Okay, thank you all for watching, and I hope you will also be back for the second part of this LTC.